Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar this evening with Evan Talty. So thank you for joining us. If you're joining us here live or if you're watching this back, we hope you find it really engaging and a useful thing to see. So my name's Josh from AnalysisPro. I'm joined by Ollie and Bradley from AnalysisPro, and obviously Evan here as well from iGaelic Coach, and he's going to be sharing some really good insights with you all this evening. So whilst I just load something up here, obviously, this is all the focus of tonight is, Evan's journey and experiences, and we're looking at how we can use video analysis to enhance coaching. But before we get going into that, we want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you've not joined us on this platform before, down the right-hand side, you'll see a couple of options that are there. So some of you have already used the chat bar, and please use that again. So just look for the little chat icon on the right hand side and start telling us your name, where you're from, and your club and sport as well. So let's get typing in there, please. Now, a bit of a agenda of what we're going to be doing. So Evan's going to talk us through his background and the research he's done, his coaching career in there, and why he's taken interest in analysis as a coach, so the impact it's had for him, some of the practices he's done. But what I'm really looking forward to seeing is about how that analysis is not just stats, the outcome of the game, it's really focused on that game model and adapting training and coaching based on that analysis, really using it as a tool to enhance our feedback to the players and enhance their development and their performance. So there's a really good flow and a really good story that Evan's going to show you through. Really great insight. So thanks so much to Evan for being open to sharing this all with us. And at the end, we're going to have a time for question and answers as well. Also, for those of you that are in our AnalysisPro community in the AP Clubhouse, tomorrow is our second AP Clubhouse, and Evan's going to be in there as well, where we can have a bit of a debrief on this session as well. So hope to see some of you there as well. Just a couple more bits about how we can really interact with this session. Obviously, some of you already putting in the chat. So hello, thank you to all of you there. You've also got an option, a couple of options down the side. You'll see one that looks like a bar chart, which is some polls. So I think Ollie is making some of those polls visible now, Ollie? Yeah. If not. So whilst I'm talking through here, if you can jump to that polls area, it's just really useful for us to get a feel of who's in here. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people from Gaelic Games in here, but other sports as well, because it's all really good coaching practice and analysis workflows we can benefit on. So there's a few polls that you can start filling in now, and then we'll open up a couple more as we go through the session as well. There's a little question mark box that you can press, and if you've got a question, it's really good if you can post it in here, because what we can do is mark when we're answering that. So when it comes back to reviewing this session, you can jump back to your question and answer point as it goes through. And straight away after the webinar is finished, use the same link. You'll be able to watch this back and share with others as well. A really cool tool which has just come back in, very good for video analysis in mind. You'll see the little scissors icon. What you can do whilst this webinar is happening is if there's something that's really interesting for you, really hits home for what you want to take away, what you want to learn from it, go to that and clip up that moment. You can make a 30 to 60 second clip, name it, you'll be able to access it there. Everyone else will be able to see some of the clips you've made, and you can easily share them afterwards and come back to watch them. So we've not been able to do that for a while on here, so I'd be really interested to see some of you using that tonight. So hopefully some of you are aware of who we are as AnalysisPro. So we're all about turning good teams into great teams. So we have a really supporting role. We can help you with processes, sharing of knowledge like we're going to see tonight, and some tools to help you do that. And we work across a variety of different environments, different sports, different levels of performance. So our 3 steps of analysis of shoot, analyze, share. So whether you're thinking of camera solutions, analysis solutions, and online platforms as well, that's a really great way to engage and use some of our processes and our experiences to help you there. So enough from me, and I'm really looking forward to that we can kind of sit back and just listen to Evan here as he guides us through his journey. So although it's obviously Gaelic Games focused, that definitely the lessons that you're going to see from this, you can apply to anything. So Evan is the founder of iGaelic Coach. Over 20 years experience in Gaelic games, so winning championships, coaching teams, managing teams, and alongside all of that, also completing a master's in applied sports coaching at the University of Limerick. So definitely lots of experience from you for you to learn from Evan here tonight. And yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing from you, Evan. So yeah, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, cool. I will grab my screen here.
Thanks everyone for using the chat and the polls as we're getting going as well. Cool, that's all showing up now, Evan.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you some background. Thanks to everyone that's logged on. Listening out to the wind howling here in West Clare. I see the lights of our GAA pitch are on, and I'm delighted to be here doing this and not with our under 21s coaching. So thanks, Dinda, for starting me out there. And so it's just a bit of a background. I've a master's in applied sports coaching for the University of Limerick, which completed last year under the guidance of Phil Carney. So unbelievable course that I'd highly recommend to any coaches, and some great people on the course, and met some great friends through it that we keep in contact, and great learning from them as well. I've played for my club here, Kilmurray-Bricken in Clare, for probably too long at this stage, and probably the coaching bug has taken over as the legs are giving way. I'm still very young I was on a kind of a podcast with Mick Bohan and Colm Collins and Philip Kerr last night, and I felt like an imposter on it with the amount of knowledge and experience them lads have. But I suppose I'm very much given an insight from my coaching journey, which is very short at the moment, like a lot of coaches probably. And it's about just sharing some insights of how maybe I'm trying to take a different approach to it, and putting in a lot of time into it. Doesn't mean I'm any good at it, but all I'm doing is sharing my own thoughts of how I go about things. So if anyone, no more than I go to most coaching conferences and webinars and everything, and all I'm trying to do is pick up little things along the way that I can add to mine that can help benefit me. So what I'm going to share a good bit of stuff on is it's going to be data that I would have collected throughout the year, and it was part of my master's research, where the topic was implementing a game model using a games-based approach in a live ladies intercounty football environment. That I did it, being the head coach of the Galway ladies team. So just I got some great. I was able to gather some great information. The girls were very open in it, and going through the whole process. So some of it I'm going to be sharing, but everything that I'm sharing is kind of stuff that we would have done throughout the masters, and hopefully some of it is best practice that it might give you some insights into how you can do things. I suppose for me, the question, why take an interest, like this is for, I think we would have promoted this a lot around it's for coaches and analysts to kind of see how we can link up, and you can see there a bit of a chain, because I think often in management teams, there's huge disconnects between each group, and there's not a joined up way of thinking. And the stats person is often the person that just runs down the steps at half time and throws you out a few stats, and you probably have forgotten them by the time you go into the dressing room, and you get the breakdown of the game after the match and you look through it. And I think I took it upon myself to kind of maybe analyse some games, and really with only a view of just trying to find out how much work analysts put into it, no more than kitmen, no more than S&C coaches, and just as the manager understand what time and what kind of free time people are putting in, so I could appreciate it a bit more. And it probably brought me down a rabbit hole because I started getting invested into it. But the big thing for me as a coach is I wanted to understand what the numbers meant. And I was getting loads of numbers about turnovers and percentages, and really I was just using KPIs, and that's all it was. But I thought we were doing great analysis. But us listening to Phil and being questioned on it is, how can the analysis, number one, guide your coaching, and number two, improve your players? And at the end of the day, I suppose, why bother doing analysis if you're not going to improve your players? Is it just to have numbers, or why do we bother doing it? And why do the analysts that are on here put hours of their time into it? And often the feedback I get from them is they don't feel valued because the coach is not really, often they're just bursting with information, but the coach doesn't ask the question. So for me as a coach, it was more, there was two sides to it. One, I wanted to find out more about it and how can I improve my coaching, but also there's the human side of it, of actually giving that person the respect they deserve for all the work they've put in, and actually taking the information on board. Whether we use it or don't use it, that's on us. But at least if they've hours of work done, I suppose it's on us to seek that information from. So
I'm sure that's music to many analysts' ears, by the way, to hear that. Definitely.
So where I would have taken, I suppose, my approach from is I would have done a lot of research papers during the Masters and tried to come up with how can you link the nerdy stuff and the paper stuff and the scientific stuff that a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. How can you take the good parts out of it, make it pretty simple, bring it into on the pitch and to the players, and just trying to create that link between pedagogy and actual real life problems. And that's where, like, if you look at this model, I think is really good, is that it's a continuing cycle of the players perform, we as the coaches observe on the day, which we think we see everything, but when we look back at it then and see the analysis, then we have a different interpretation of the game. We use that to plan our sessions. We use it to prepare for the next match, or for our players to prepare for the next match, and it leads back into the performance the next day. So I took that model and I kind of made it very simple. And where I look at it, I would say that I tried to develop then a whole system based on if you're building a house. So if you're building a house, the first thing you need is you go to an architect and you get it drawn up, and the builder needs plans to build off. So for me, when we play championship in the summer, that's the house finished. When we start in November, we need a guideline and we need plans. Otherwise, we're just reactionary. So the first part is about developing a game model. And a game model for me is the vision as a coach of how you see the game played. So very simply, we all see Pep Guardiola keeps the ball and he keeps possession of it and they try and break teams down. Jurgen Klopp is a slightly different version. It's high octane, high transition, fast transition. Jose Mourinho might want to play a slower game and defend in lower blocks, but that's how they see the game. And I think for me, there's what I've learned over the years is that everyone sees the game differently. And there's no right or wrong way to see the game. It's your way, and own it. Everyone sees it differently and embrace it. And there's no one way fits all. And that's why I think the GAA is a brilliant sport, because if you look at all the teams, they're all playing different ways. But if you're the manager or you're the coach, be true to your way of playing and not try to be reactionary and just seeing what other teams are doing and trying to copy them, because they're probably way too far down the line as it is. What I then looked at is, for my game model, I split it into two things, right? And to give us an example, if we go to the right side and we see our principles of play and our skills. So if we wanted to play like Limerick in the hurling, and we want to transition it out from defence, through our hands, play the way we're facing, get it to wide zones, diagonal balls to runners inside, what principles of play do I need to play that way? I need pass and move for the next pass. I need play the way we're facing, runners off the shoulder, get it wide to the delivery zone. So that's the principles that we need for our game model. And then what skills do we need to execute it? We need accurate stick passing, accurate hand passing. We need to be able to scan for out balls, and we need to be able to create separation up front. So we need a couple of skills. And if that's football, if you're like Kerry and you're looking to kick the ball a lot and you're looking at kick passing, your skills need to be good at that. If we're running the ball a lot, we obviously need high skills in the hand pass. And in order to achieve all these things, we need to have a basic understanding, I suppose, of what we're trying to get to, in what it looks like when it's finished, and kind of reverse engineer it, rather than, I suppose, just going from night to night or from session to session or game to game. We need to have an overall plan. So if we go back to the left side here and we look at it, so we know the principles and the skills. So now what do we look for in how can we improve the players? How can we help the players? If they've developed their principles, they've developed their skills, how can we improve them if they're not doing what we need them to do in terms of the game model? So one thing I would do is I'd set out my positional demands for my game model. So to give you an idea of that is we look at a centre forward as a great example. And if we take Kerry, the great Kerry teams, so if we want to play centre forward and he has to be a playmaker and pull the strings and deliver a nice ball to the inside line, we're probably going to play a Colm Cooper type player there that has vision and can kick the ball. If we're going to play an abrasive centre forward, that his main job is that when we lose the ball, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough in the tackle. They're going to be stoppers. They're going to be good athletes. They're going to win breaking ball for us. They're possibly looking at a Paul Galvin or that type of player, a more abrasive, destructive player that is able to play both sides of the ball. Whereas the Gooch was probably not renowned for his defensive capabilities, and Philly McMahon probably exposed that in one of their Ireland finals. So if we understand our game model, we then need to understand what positional demands are on each position in that model, both with possession, in possession, and out of possession. And from that then comes our analysis. So the analysis looks at, are our players doing what we need them to do based on how we want to play? Very simple. And if they're not, how do we fix it? So we take what they're not doing, we understand it, and we see how we can make amendments into our training sessions to help enhance their learning. So it's not overly complicated, but there's a little formula to it. And the way I look at it is, this is my plan. It's not, other people probably have better plans, but for me, I keep it simple and I understand it myself. And so the way I look at it is, a small plan is better than no plan. So what Mike, in terms of what this is a defensive game model. So if we don't have possession, if we lose the ball up at the top half of the pitch, we want pressure on the ball. We want our other side tucking in. We want to narrow the pitch, set our defensive line. We talk about our centre forward. If we're playing that model, a hard middle channel where they're tough tacklers, we set traps out wide and we try and stop runners getting through these zones where goal chances are created. And we look at touch tight, aggressive defending. So in the red zone. So that's out of possession. And I'll probably put a little more emphasis on in possession, because that's where some of my data is coming from. So what does that look like? Very simply, hurling our football, we get the ball in here. The one thing we do is we make sure we hold possession and we keep it. We don't give it away inside in our own half. If it's hurling, we're looking for accurate stick passes, accurate balls out through football, working it to the delivery zones. And when we get out here, we're trying to move the ball fast. So whether it's hurling in this area of the pitch, it's Keane Lynch coming out here. If it's football, you're looking at your playmaker, you're coming out around here, getting on the ball, you're good kick passers. And probably in the modern day, even your better inside forwards are coming out around here, because they're kind of getting shots away from out here. In here, we're looking at our depth lateral runs. So you'd see Derry doing this a lot. They stack the deep channels to bring back the defensive line, which creates more space around the D. And we're trying to engage the sweeper inside here. So there was always a case in Gaelic football, I think, where everyone kept out wide, really wide, whereas now people are flooding bodies into this zone and they're just trying to engage players in this zone, and they're looking for weak 1v1s all over the place in the whole 45. So the game moves on, but again, this is just a simple game model that I would have come up with, keeping width on the ball side. So often, if the ball is at this side of the field, we see, if we tell our wing forwards keep width, they'll be wide over here, and all that allows is our defenders to cheat in field and defend the red zone, because you need 2 to 3 passes to get over here. So it's wide when the ball is coming towards your side, but if it's not, then you need to keep deep and stretch that defense over this side so they can't cheat in field. So there are some of the things, the instructions I'd want my players to have. I send them this game model at the start of the year.
Evan, sorry, just to go back to that, because I'm thinking back to when, I was playing rugby, for example, and we'd have like pre-season, okay, this is the way we're going to play, this is what we're going to do. And that happened when we were sat on the field in front of a whiteboard just before the session, and then, okay, now we're doing training. And then like the next week, remember that way that we're going to play when we're in this area? Not at all. Because I couldn't retain that information. But obviously this being visualized as something that I guess people have access to quite a lot of the time, like that seems a really
Yeah.
simple but really effective thing.
And for me, Josh, what I do then is this guides my session. So if I want to work on this triangle area of the pitch, which is fast transition, I won't work on the scoring zone, the lateral runs, the cuts and loops. I'll work my whole session on that area. I look at what principles of play that's required. So get ahead of the ball, try no backwards passes once we get out here. Can we work it to the delivery zone? Scan for a kick pass. And we work our games and build our session around that area of the pitch. So when the players go away from the session, they know, right, that's what we're working on tonight. They have a very clear understanding of it, and they go on from there. Nice. So then I'm looking at my positional demands. So again, everyone's is different. Don't shoot me now if you've different, but these are just stuff I've put together. So look at the difference between our 6 and our 11. We want the 6 to hold the centre, be the organiser, physical presence, read the game. When we attack, we want them to link it. We want to hold our shape and structure. We want them to break the lines on transition if there's a slow transition and we're trying to pick a hole and everyone is up the field. And they're good. You see John Daly do it a lot for Galway. Generally, some of the centre backs, and McKinless does it for Derry, get on the ball. They're good ballers, but they can also defend. And then what attributes? So, like, do we want a 5'2" scrawny person centre back? Probably not in our defensive model. We want a physical presence that's going to be there, making our middle channel a hard place to be. And then I go back to my centre forward. For me, in my game model, my centre forward sets the press. I'm not as concerned as I'm in possession as I am out of possession, because I want to press the ball high up the field. And if you have a centre forward that's not willing to work or be able to be good in the tackle, you can never delay the transition to be able to get set. So in my own game model, that's for me. It's not for everyone. Some people prefer better ballers out there that can link the play and stuff. So again, but it's just what I'm trying to get across here is once you have an idea, and when we're sitting down to pick the team at the start of the year, we're looking at, have we 2 or 3 options at 11? Have we 2 or 3 options at 6? And if we don't, can we build them up? Can we get them fitter? Can we do this? So if at the start of the year we have this for our game, so we have our model, then we have our positional demands of that model, it's very simple to go from there then. So then we move on to our analysis piece. So what I developed with Josh on this is I was obsessed at the time, still am, in playing with width. So not going down channel 2, 3, and 4, which we see in the centre, and most of our touches are there. So we're not playing at the start of the year with a whole lot of depth. You see here, and a whole lot of width. So what we're looking at, a couple of things here, is who's influential on possession and what depth and width they have. But really and truly, for me, the amount of possessions is not that important. It's what they do when in them possessions are important. And often, if you diagnose it and see, which I'm going to show you here, the difference between, we can get a really good understanding when we actually extract each person's data out of it. So if we look here, our half back line, here's one wing back. She changed position, I think, at half time, but she worked up and down her wing in attack when we had the ball. Here's our 6. She worked that middle area like we'd want it when we had possession. Here's our other wing back. Again, she worked her side of the field as well. Now, here's the problem that I identified from that possession map. Here's our wing forward. That's not how we align to our game model. Here's our 11, again, working in and out. Here's our wing forward. Again, probably taken a little bit too deep, but not too bad. But this stands out to me. So how can we fix this? So our attacking shape is not great. We obviously are lacking width in one side of the field. And I'd be very surprised if our attacks to shots ratio in this game was very good, because of we're lacking cohesiveness in up front. So we're looking at our 7, our 12, our 10, and our 5, and what are they doing together? So if I take out one player and we're doing a diagnostic on it, we've very simple, right, here's our model. Is she in wide positions to execute cuts and loops and hard runs? Look at our model. Not really. Could be better. What's our positional demands? Okay. Does this possession map reflect our game model and positional demands? I would say no. We've diagnosed it. Now what do we do? So we take the clips. So it's one thing showing dots on a map, but we want to see what's happening here? Is there a reason for it? So if we go and look at the video clips, what were we seeing? So look out here, players out wide, which is not bad, but she folds in field. That's a lateral possession, solos the ball for probably 40, 50 metres. And if you look at my dot, we probably not gained a whole lot of ground. Here, taking the ball back to field as our wing forward. And again, not really probably doing what we're looking for from our demands of the game. So what we're trying to achieve here is trying to understand, we're looking as coaches, we're looking at active possessions, what type. Again, if we look out here, here she is, we'd want that way out deeper, and by the time it tries to come across, our wing back is kept great width, high and wide, but we fall back in because our wing forward is engaged too early. So this, to me, we've made it again, we're looking at it again, where's our half forward? Instead of being out, she's taking it flat and lateral, and all we're doing is rotating the ball. So we've done two things. We've identified the touches, okay? We drilled into them to see touches won't tell you a whole lot in the map. We want to see the video. Okay, we've made a diagnosis. So we need to get this player understanding what we're looking for. So if we've good clips of it, highlight. And if we don't, we might go to other teams doing it and show them that, just so we can paint that visual image in their head. So when we move, how would I deal with this? So player-coach interaction. Send the player the touch map, send them the touch clips, not all of them, because they could have 30 or 40, narrow them down, try and pick a couple of positives that represent what we're looking for, show examples of other teams if necessary, ask and check the game model and positional understanding. Do we really know what we're doing? Or if we don't, can we help? And explain the training week and what we want to improve. So when we go to training, this is what we're going to do with you. So,
Evan, can I just, sorry to jump in again. I'm just thinking, and it gives an opportunity of bringing up one of our polls as well, because obviously it's quite a lot of detail that you're going into of where players are having all those touches on the field. So to get that kind of information, and maybe Ollie, if you make this poll, so we've got a poll just coming live about how long we'll spend on analysis post game. But when you're doing that, obviously after the game and marking down where players are having those touches, how long are you on average spending to do that?
Well, with your help in building the dashboard, it's taken me, I used to be doing it on, I'd get the video, I'd create a map of the pitch on PowerPoint on one screen, and every time a player touched the ball, I'd put a dot, and then I'd have to go back and it took me forever. But luckily you intervened and made me a dashboard where all that can be done in just by doing it once. In general, it takes me, now that particular, at that time, it used to take me about an hour and a half to do a full game. That's changed to maybe an hour 45, because we'll see in a few minutes, we've built in a tackling one where we can do in and out of possession on the one dashboard. But look, I think it's time consuming at the start. It's an hour and a half, but it's not massively in terms of what we're looking for. And this is, for me, very important as the coach doing it, because the analyst isn't looking through the same lens as I am. I can tell him what I'm looking for, but like, you're the coach, you see what you want on the pitch, you know what you want. So why not invest a couple of hours to try and go through it? And that's just from not everyone has that time, and I understand that. But I think it's really important why coaches need to actually have some understanding of analysis, is that it can often be lost in translation between the coach-analyst relationship as to what we're looking for, because not all coaches are good at explaining what they actually want themselves.
That's really key, really key. Also, another one, just looking here, so Colum's asked a question, Evan, so before we move on, so Colum had asked, do you share these positional demands with the players?
No, where needs be. I would share the positional demands 100%. The players will get a copy of the game model, a copy of the positional demands. So like, if you're wing forward and you're complaining as to why aren't you playing or what it might be, we take out our positional demands and we look at them and we say, look, are you fit enough to play here? Do you have the skills? Are you able to do this, that? Look at your pitch map the last day. It's not how we want you to play. We have to look at bringing someone else in there, or else the system doesn't work. And they might say, oh, geez, well, I got 2 points from play. That's fine, but that's not how we want to play as a group. And you did well yourself, but can we stick to the process? And that's where understanding the data and why you have the data is a big piece. Because look, there's oceans of data out there, but really, is it relevant and is it going to improve your players is what I'd ask.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Evan. And thank you, Colin, as well. So
we've gone through a process. We now are going to interact with it, right? And when we sit down, what do we want to fix? So we want that player and the other wing forwards to play with more width, keep our shape and attack better, not come in field, possessions that affect the game. So taking the ball, going back towards our centre back as she's coming out against you. Can we take the ball, get going towards the other goal? Can we be more of a threat? And then what tools do I have as the coach and the analyst to work together to fix it? So we can put conditions on the game. We can put constraints on the player. Sorry, if constraints spelled wrong. We can put different scoring mechanisms on that player or the team. We can observe the player or pull the player out of the game and have them observe the game going on and watch other players in their position. And sometimes that's a really good way of learning because often they can't see it if they're stuck inside it. We can manipulate the pitch and put cones out to be able to put in our channels. We can then show them video clips. We can do that live if we're videoing the session. And we can do one-to-ones prior to the session to help them understand we're not targeting you. We're here to help everyone. We could have players on different positions doing different things, all working at the same time. So this is at our disposal. Here's how we're going to fix it. So here's the session design. And if you can at all, even take a photo of this screenshot. This game relevant pattern of play unopposed. This actually occurs in the videos I'm going to show numerous times. And if any of you watched Sky Sports the other night, I thought it was really interesting with Gary O'Neill. Talked about how they set up and how they set up a training and how it was going to be replicated in the game when a team came to press them. And I thought it was fascinating how their sessions and their analysis all linked together to execute and get a goal in the Premier League from it. Never seen Sky do it, and I thought it was top class. But this is a game relevant pattern of play. How often do we see this? If you can see my red pointer, comes into the corner, we play it back out, we stitch it across. This central player then, instead of kicking the ball here, we carry hard to engage this blanket. We're carrying. This player then, they get on the ball, coming off the loop, kick pass inside, and a backdoor cutter comes in field. So we practice that unopposed pattern of play, but we can change it up. We give them some space over here. 3 could kick pass it, 4 could carry, this player can loop, whatever we want to do. This player can empty him, we can backdoor him. But it's just letting them free play every so often. But that pattern is kept replicating because in the modern game, it happens all the time. So put them into similar scenarios, understand the timing get them used to the timing of the runs. If you've seen that player we analysed, probably coming in field too early, understanding keeping our spaces, that we don't close in and go towards the ball to narrow the gaps, and just giving them that mental images of what's going to occur on the pitch. Then game scenario it. So in this game, we're looking at in possession, patience, rotate the ball, try and keep it out of contact. The defence are trying to delay and dictate, triggers to press, and when we turn it over, we'll go. But within this game, the individual, so we have the option, put no plays on the ball if we feel they're taking too much out of it. They might only be able to take it coming in from the wide channel. So we'll keep you out here until it comes around, you hold your shape, you can only enter from in here when it gets here. Take the ball at pace, so you turn it over, call a free against them if they take it static. Their body shape to attack. If the player is coming on a looped run, they got to get their body shape right, that they can have the ability to both cut or loop and then finish the run to the crossbar. When they pass it off, they don't just peel back, that they actually finish their run diagonally to the crossbar, which is stretching the defence and opening gaps. So that gives us a chance. Within that game, that player might just have 1 or 2 of them constraints. We can pick and choose. We have a menu of them. And on that, what we're looking for is develop patience and decision-making to hold out wide, develop awareness of creating wide overloads, why we want you to stay here, and learning movement based on the ball position. So when do you become active? What if it's over here? What are you trying to do? So just trying to teach them within the game kind of a bit of individualized coaching because we're working on that specific thing with them. So we then go and we've played the game. We played our first game. We saw that was the training session in between 2 or 3 of them. We went back and this is how it looked the first day and this is how it looked the next day. So if you look at, I didn't make these up because I'll show you clips. All these, this is actual what happened. Player stayed high and wide, and we're going to show a couple of clips here of watch the difference in this player. Look at out here, not coming towards the ball, moving away from the player in the ball. That's our game-specific pattern of play. Come on the loop, look in field. Okay, recycle again. How often does this happen? Watch her finishing her run to the back door. Again, watch the rotation. We've practiced this scenario training. Is that freezing for you there, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's just catching up a bit.
Yeah, we'll go back to that in a second now. Again, there's that cut run in field being more a threat. Again, watch that. Watch her wide out here now. That's not coming back field. Watch it here. Triggering, getting in. That's a cut run. But straight for the crossbar. Could have been a goal on. So what I might do, Josh, is just replay this and go through it again. So we look at what you're pointing. Don't come to me. Here's what we've set up. Here's that runner. Here's the loop at pace, taking the ball, coming in from the channel. Breaks down, nothing there for us. Recycle it back again. Okay, set it back up again. Peel back out. Again, here's the example. We talked about that unopposed pattern. Okay, here it is. Watch her pointing. Watch her injecting. Watch her looping. Watch the backdoor cutter. Look at her going. And we've identified this at training. Just that's our pattern of play again. Recycle around. Come at pace. Watch her peeling backdoor here to make the cut. And there she's injecting into a position where she's a threat. And this is a week later. Again, watch her here. She's out wide. She's not coming for a soft ball, going back to field. She's showed and cut. And there's that run again for the backdoor cutter. It just doesn't come off. So there's multiple instances of them I could show you of all the touches. And like for me, if we look at the compare and contrast, watch what we spoke about. Watch her out here. She's looking, pointing, and wanted to come back against the player. That's the difference between a goal threat or not. Here's lateral. Again, what we see here, she's outside here this time. And what we're looking for is when the ball comes back around, what are we trying to achieve? Versus, and I think the first one here and the first one here are just all we need to see in that. The difference in the player and the difference in the threat. So
I really like Evan. Sorry to keep jumping in, but like, and you said it a couple of slides ago about for those players and going into your session, it's about developing those mental images of what's happening. And this is like, think back to the start. You're showing them this is your game model. This is what you want to visualize. This is what we're going to do in training, so you can get used to this scenario popping up. And that, I think, is a key essence of why video analysis and using video to enhance your coaching and enhance your feedback is great, especially players as visual learners, that they're on the field and they say, oh, I've been in this situation before. This looks familiar, and it becomes a bit more automated that they're better prepared to know what to do in that scenario. We did a case study with Liverpool a couple of years ago because their opposition analysis team use Nacsport to analyse, create presentations, and Greg Matheson, who heads up that department, did a really interesting case study with us, and he talked about exactly that. What they do, you know, the players are good enough, they know what to do, but you give them these mental imagery to just support and prepare them for when those moments come up, and then it just becomes all a bit more automated and all a bit more natural.
And if we go back, Josh, to this unopposed pattern, And often I might put in a mannequin, I might put in a sweeper, but it comes here to here. And the big thing is, if that's a kick pass over here, but you've seen the blonde girl injecting into the line all the time. But this girl now, the difference was previously she was coming back in here. Now she knows what she's doing. She's keeping her width. She's waiting for her to engage these inside defenders. But there's a trigger for this player. She knows that she's to go. But it's all timing of the run together. So that's why I was saying to screenshot it, because this pattern came through so many times in them clips. And what we spoke about with this girl here is that, right, after 3 loops, the defender is going to realize you're going to loop every time and she's going to screen you on the inside. That's your chance then to show and go. So loop and peel. And when she peeled back inside her, then it's about, that's what we spoke about, of a skill of creating separation. So we need to develop the skill of separation that often we need to be able to understand if we're backdoor cutting. Well, if this player wants to make a backdoor cut inside it here, they need to empty this space out for themselves. So they need to peel out here, show hard for the ball, and cut back in field. So there's little bits of nuances in the coaching and the detail that goes into it. But like, and look, obviously I've picked good examples for the purposes of the presentation, but I can promise you this, all these were a threat. Every one of these possessions were not backwards, not carrying the ball lateral. Everything here was a threat. And that was it. The key of that game and was the learning outcomes for her was less possessions, but more effective possessions. So that's why not to be overly worried. And I'll talk to you when I go through with how that can affect younger players. These are obviously senior inter-county players, but we'll talk about our under-21 group in a second year. So what are stats versus analysis? And I know a friend of mine, Orna, we have discussions about this. So, right, what's the difference? What is the difference? So basic stats on the score of the game, our shots, our shot percentage, the origin of scores, our kick-out percentages, our total possessions. They're stats that can help drive your KPIs as a team. And that's all they basically tell me. From my analysis piece, I can learn my attack shape. I can see how my press is. I can see my tackling locations. I can see if we're keeping towards our game model. Very few stats will guide my game model versus it will guide my analysis. Stats will drive my KPIs. How do we use them? The players love to see the basic stats. I don't show all the players the touches and the tackle maps and all that kind of stuff. It's on a need-to-know basis. Some of them love them and they can ask for them and they'll get them. More that don't want them, I don't want to stress them by giving it to them unless they need to see it, unless we need to engage in learning from it. Can it inform our coaching process? The shot locations can be a good indicator of, are we making good decisions in there? The volume of them, our attack to shot ratio is a good indication of our attack and play. But often if that falls down, it'll be informed by our attack shape, probably broke down. How do you deliver to them to players? They love to see the basic dashboard at the end of the game, put it up in the WhatsApp group or whatever. The analysis is more in depth and it's on a kind of player by player basis. I would have massive amounts of data that not everyone needs to know, and how do I digest it to make sure I don't confuse them and be very specific of what I'm trying to get from it. So this is a typical dashboard that I would use. It's very simple, but I'm looking at my kickouts. Like, what does this tell me? Tells me our shooting was bad, but it was the actual it doesn't inform me the conditions were terrible the same day. Would I be happy with 33 to 21? No. 21 to 12? No. That needs to be better. Our rate of losing possession could be better. But all that does is it fixes into my KPIs. So my stat dashboard formulates my KPI indicators. And look, I can probably guarantee the players that if we hit all our KPIs, we'll win every game. Do I want to make it unrealistic? No. 100 tackles. Everyone counts tackles differently. I don't count tackles as tackles. I count tackles as defensive actions, and I'll tell you in a minute. That's why I could hit 100. If you're talking contact tackles, then your tackle target might be 30 or 40. So again, going back to my point, this is just unique to your own team, what you want from your own team. If you're looking to go along a lot and you've big midfielders, then 85%, you might only want 65%. So again, there's no right or wrong here. This is very specific. This is for a young under 21 group. Most of them are actually only 19, so we try and keep it simple for them. This is interesting. I want to talk about. So me and Josh finished this last week, and it's the next level in what we've done with our board. So on the left-hand side is our touch map. For anyone asking, we don't know, blue is just blue because I made a few mistakes. It should be all be white. We'll fix that. And here is our tackles. But what's interesting is lads, I think this is invaluable, is time in possession and time out of possession. How do I clock it? If there's injuries or long stoppages in play, I stop the counter. But the reason I want to know the time out of possession is that I need to know that because that'll tell me our barometer for our tackle count. So if that's 12 minutes out of possession and we have 70 tackles, or if it's 24 minutes and we have 70 tackles, obviously we work a lot harder if we can have 70 tackles and 12 minutes out of possession versus 70 tackles and 24 minutes out of possession. So what drove me to go after that was, I suppose, coaches having in-depth conversations and debates with coaches about this. Does the tackle count always tell you the story of the game? And it doesn't, because your tackle count is going to be quite low. Like when Dublin played Louth this year, Dublin had how much possession? So Louth should have 3 times more tackles than Dublin because they gave them the ball for most of the game. So like if again, and I listen to, there's a guy on Off the Ball, it's about stats and about actually delving into the stats and knowing the stats and having the stats actually relative. So that's why out of possession versus tackles is very relative, because you can only tackle when you don't have the ball. So, and this goes back to another thing. So this guy here, the other lad, midfielder here with us, he was looking at this. I put this up on the board, and he's only 19, and he says to me, this guy here is our goalie, and he had 12 possessions out the field. And this guy had 11, or the other guy had 15 possessions here, our midfielder. And he was kind of looking, he's like, Jesus, I've only 3 more possessions than my goalkeeper, and I'm playing in the middle of the field. But it doesn't always mean quantity over quality. So I'm never too bothered about the amount of touches. It's really about, all I'm looking for the touches is to inform myself on where they're touching it and if they're touching it relative to our game model. But more so when I click on the clips of the touches, that tells me the full picture.
I think that's the key thing there, Evan, isn't it? And you talked about your stats was driving your KPIs. It's kind of a signpost. I always think of it as, okay, here's a bit of a snapshot for the game, but obviously in Nacsport, like your dashboard, you click on it and then you see the clips that relate to it, and that's your context, and that's what you can use to enhance the understanding. And there's a point here whilst this is up before you move on, Evan. So because Derek had asked, could you share this tagging window in the dashboard? So what we've done, we've made a rather than names on it, it says player 1, player 2, player 3, but we've got a version of this tagging window and dashboard that everyone that's registered for this, you'll get sent a link to find that. So even if you're using Nacsport, it will work in the Nacsport Scout version. So the tagging window to go through and like Evan said, what was that, about an hour and 45? I think now you're doing the touches and tackles.
Yeah.
Evan?
Yeah.
No. So tagging it up and the dashboard that's there, and you can adapt that for your team as well. There's a couple more questions, but I think we'll come back to them later because I don't want to interrupt your flow too much. Sorry, Evan.
So if we go to the tackle map then, lads, and we look at our game model in defence, we want a hard middle channel. Now, sorry, that has slipped slightly. That should be probably up here between the top of our D and up to the opposition 45. And if I just put my, whatever that shape is, on top of it, because obviously we don't really mind if they don't tackle out wide, I'd be hoping that I'd see a lot of these dots and a lot of purples, which are contact tackles. So to give you an idea, okay, oranges are tackles that lead to a foul. So it's hard to, some of them are good fouls and bad fouls, but look, if you have an orange and it's in the scoring zone, that's not a good place to foul. A tackle from behind, so where you've run back and helped someone out. A forced turnover, where you've put pressure on to stress their decision making and make them give it away. Pressure on the ball, so you mightn't have got contact, but you've put enough pressure that you've got close enough that they can't scan for a pass. Purple is actual contact, and this is a good one, I think, is tracking a runner. Often I'm watching the game and I see a poor fellow over to far side tracking back 50 yards. and they get no tackle for that. So for me, there's 2 or 3 more that you can't see here, but for me, these dots, what they mean is that there's defensive actions rather than tackles. So I've actually got one for, it's called positional sense. So if my cornerback is playing from the front and a wing forward turns to kick it into the corner and they look up, but my cornerback is out in front because a good, brave defending, I give him a tackle for that and I dot it down as a positional tackle. If my sweeper cuts out the ball or is in good position that the other team won't kick the ball in, I put down a tackle for that if I can see him. So I try and give good stuff as much as possible, but the oranges are very simple, and I can then show the guys who are on the oranges, you can populate with their name and say, lads, look, we need to clean this up. We've given away scoreable frees inside here. You're the main culprits for it. Tidy it up. So that's kind of, I can see from this map, right, I would be unhappy because we've way too many tackles inside our own 45 and we haven't made that middle area a war zone enough. There isn't enough purples in there, contact tackles. So that informs my defensive game model around where our tackles happening. Why are we fouling and tackling outside in the sidelines when we're happy enough to give them channels up? We shouldn't be way out there. And as a result, we know that in this game we give up 5 or 6 good goal scoring opportunities, and that's mainly by we're actually putting too many tackles on in wide channels where there's no danger. So very simple to look at our game model and match it up towards both these maps here. To be fair to them, we used our width and depth quite well if you look on the touch map. So these are boys.
Oh, sorry, just a quick one. With that stats dashboard you created there, what's your flow in the tagging window to gather that data? Like your players are categories, descriptors. How do you go about it with your flow on the tagging window?
I would have designed it quite simply: in possession, a touch, player, and then click the map, and then out of possession, tackle, the type of tackle, and the player who tackled, and then click the map. So literally, for me, I don't have the ability to make my own, and I'd say you know this better than me because I'm always a 90. I'm not good at making dashboards and linking things, but I know what I want for myself, and Josh helps me out in how to do these things, but I try and keep it simple because I'm not an analyst, I'm not analytical, I'm not a coder, I'm not any good at any of that stuff. I'm a coach, so I've kept it as simple as possible.
But yeah, I think that's the important part, is knowing what you want, and then obviously we've got people like Josh, myself, is helping you get that data out of it. You've done the hard part, you know what you want, right? How do I get this data from that? And I think that obviously shows you really, really well.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if we go on here, so this is the second, I'm going to show you here what I see in this game. So we've seen our tackles, lads, right? And we've seen that the tackle count, we're not happy that there isn't enough engagement in this area of the pitch. Look at here, this is the delivery zone, and there's very few contact pressure tackles. So we've allowed way too many balls, which my observation on the night backed that up, and then now the analysis has proven it. Now we're going to look at a couple of examples of what I've looked at. So if you watch here, number 9 here, he's doing well. So that's contact, great contact. And we're gone again. We've narrowed the pitch. We've numbers in here. Now that should be a swarm tackle. It goes back up, right? We're back up into the line again, pressuring the ball. Okay, now we've drifted. We've stopped. We're giving them time to pick their head up. And look, that was a foul that went over the bar. So from that particular clip there, we went a bit of the way, but we didn't finish the job. And that was a microcosm of, I suppose, that was happening all night long. Again, watch here, and what we're highlighting here is our reaction. The freeze given, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 player, 5 player, 6 players, walking, not looking, not filling the danger zone, moving away from the danger zone, head down, not looking at the ball. 15 seconds later, we're still not set up. One simple movement, and they're back into our danger zone, free given away over the bar. So what I'm looking at this is our reaction and our reset to press. So in the first clip, we see our lads getting contact. Then they dropped off and they never got back off the line again. And what they're looking at here is we're not switching on. And that happened all night long. It was our first game of the year. We're just walking, strolling. We're not, what's our next job? Are we engaged? So I sat down before training. I did that on a Tuesday night, and we were training on a Wednesday night, and I said, right, these are the issues we're having. How do we fix it? We don't need to fix our shooting. We don't need to fix this and that. We need to fix, we're not pressing the ball enough, and we're giving teams time to kick the ball in against us, and we're not resetting enough. So I came up with a game called Reset and Press. Again, I don't know if this game is any good. I don't know if it's worked for our lads until we play a game again. But this was my game. There could be flaws in it. I'm happy to share it. And I spent a bit of time, but it's very specific to us. So the attacking team, which should be defenders, because we're working on a high press, the attacking team, we'll say, or the blue team, their job is to work hand passes and break the line. So break our press off a short kick out. So what they're trying to do, their principles, we want them, which we would want anyway with our defenders, we want them attacking the line at pace, change our running angles and support off the shoulder. So one team are trying to pin them in, the other team are trying to break them out. But we're focusing our coaching points on the defensive team, the yellow team. So stop and delay them from breaking into zone 2, stop and delay them breaking into zone 3, the red zone. So what happens is there's 7 seconds per reset per zone. Now, this is going back to our referee when he blew the whistle. We weren't reset. So blue team are trying to break in. So if this blue player breaks into this zone, I blow the whistle. Yellows must all sprint back to the end of the zone. Blues hold on the top of it. Blow the whistle again, back up and engage. Right? They break into the next zone. One player just breaks in at pace. I blow the whistle. They have 7 seconds to get to the other end zone. Back to the top of it, blow the whistle now, get back up off your line and press again. Stop that kick pass going in. Get pressure on the ball. That's what we're working on. So we're looking for staying in the game, pressing the ball with aggression, narrowing the pitch by connecting up together, and rest fast and communicate. So a reset fast and communicate. What we're doing here with our keeper, he gives the short kick out, and we can do one or two things. He can give the short kick out away and sprint to the zone and become the eyes and communicator. He's playing as the +1, like he would be behind his defenders. He's telling them where to go. Or we can make the keeper give the short kick out and play with the lads and give them a +1 trying to break out. So just that the keepers are engaged all the time as well. So that was my game. Just so you know,
and that was clearly coming from the analysis you've done, what you've seen, and then, okay, let's impact it on training.
Yeah, so I'll read. This is just loading up here, so here we go. Watch keeper chips it out. I'd like to see him getting a bit faster out, but he's going out now. Okay, whistle blown, broke the line. Watch our reaction time. This is our first night of it. Are they back? Back. Whistle goes. Now get up off the line again and engage. Don't let them lift their heads for the kick pass. Yeah, whistle goes. Back again. You can see we've 1 or 2 lazy lads still. Back out again. So that was the first night of the game, right? And for me, I just paused it on that. This is another thing. This was the first night of the game. And number one, the lads have to learn all the conditions. They have to learn what we want to get out of it. They have to see the benefit of it. And they ain't going to learn that in one night. So that game has to be played 3-4 nights. We played that Wednesday night and we played it again on the Friday. And it was night and day on Friday. So they weren't overthinking what the rules are and what they can and can't do. They understood what sprint for 7 seconds means. It's not jog, trot. It's get back on your toes, get back up, don't turn your back to the ball. And they became really sharp at it. And I'd say they're running it again tonight. And it's seen then. That's 3 nights of it. And if that doesn't translate back onto the pitch, me and the lads have to sit down and say, well, why are they not getting it? How can we fix it? What can we think of another way to get this into their head? But if it works, we move on. So again, we're nearly there. Understanding your numbers. Again, if you just put in 70 tackles versus 50 tackles, it's very easy to say, right, that team in the first half worked way harder. But that's not true, because if you can look at your work rate index, your tackles divided by minutes in possession, even though the other team only had 50 tackles, they had it in 13 minutes, which is 3.85 tackles per minute versus 2.7 tackles per minute. So, no, again, you can drill into that even further by actually checking how were the opposition playing, was there a win there? And for me, it's all about putting the stats into context and having it relative. This is our game model talking about up top, right? So here's our full forward line. Now, this guy played as kind of a Roman role, but these two boys, that was our full forward, this was our corner forward. I'd be extremely happy with this lad here. Puts in his tackles in around there, isn't lazy, gets all his touches in there. So he's doing it. He's keeping his depth. He's staying inside the red zone. Our full forward line is here. They're kind of aligned to their game model. They're staying deep. That was the second half. We brought him out to centre forward. He'd more touches here. So checking for our full forward line. Are they aligned into the game model? Here's our part of the pitch. Here's our full forward line. And we check it and see. So finally, how do we interact with the team? Like, how do we get this across to them? So this is something I'm trialing at the moment. I'm using the Nacsport hub with these under 21 group. This took one-to-ones. It took Zoom calls last year for small group analysis. But now on the app, on the Nacsport hub app, here's my team interaction. So I'll throw up their individuals. They can watch all their own clips. I'll throw up the team analysis. I'll throw up the actual document around the KPIs. I'll throw up the full match if they want to watch it. They're able to clip clips out of here. But they're learning it at the moment. So my job at the moment is to kind of keep it simple from. So what I do here is, here's an example of every player. So the player can go in, click his name, his touches populate, he can watch his touches, and he might take one of the clips, highlight them and send them to me in a message and say, Evan, what do you think of that? Was I doing the right thing or the wrong thing here? He could be inside in school, he could be in college. We mightn't see him till next Friday. We've our analysis done because we're chatting on the hub over and back about the game and the clips. So really good way to engage the modern player who's social media engaged. The hub is quite like your timeline on Facebook. It's very easy to see, very easy click through on the app. We don't, and this is stops. So our unit meetings, I can send certain clips to just our defenders. If we're doing opposition analysis, I sent the clips of our inside forwards when they won possession. What do we do with them? Have a chat with them. What can we do better, lads? I don't see these lads outside the pitch. I'm not able to ask them. Some of them are only 16, 17, 18. We're not going to go back and meet them. They're not going to log into Zoom of a Wednesday night for me. But they will go on their phone at lunchtime, look at one or two clips, write me a note back, and we'll interact that way. So that's where.
What impact is that having, Evan?
Do you know what it's doing, Josh? It's creating a little bit of a bond between us as a management group and players. It's creating a better awareness for the players of how to analyse their own games. And do you know what they're actually doing now is they're actually chatting to themselves. Now, it starts off as a bit of crack. Some fella might highlight a fella falling on his arse and sending it to him. But you know what? There's no harm in that either because it's creating engagement. And that's what we want from them. If they're on the hub and some of the stuff is a bit of crack as well, by all means, because these are young lads that we're trying to get into it. As you see, we have a small group of only 17 or 18 players, so we have to get the most out of them. But they're really enjoying the experience of learning, and this is their first time exposed to video analysis as such. So it's a nice breeding ground for them. Move up into senior in a year or two's time, and hopefully they're not coming from scratch that way.
Yeah, so that's really, really good to hear because we've been talking about Nacsport Hub and the app that we've got a lot of teams using, and I think it's that, like some examples you shared there of the players on their phone, you can connect with them in the area that they're constantly glued to. It's a familiar feel with that social media approach, but to me that's the killer thing with it, and what we're seeing from other people as well is that, like you said about, it's actually creating a bond, it's creating awareness and creating engagement and driving engagement. And think back to the start of this webinar where you said you had to dive into doing some of the analysis to appreciate what analysts are doing, have a better understanding and a better control of it as well. Likewise here, that by driving that engagement, the players are getting a better understanding of not necessarily the process you're doing, but what you're trying to tell them, how you're trying to support them all the time. And it's all in one place and those conversations happening. Of course, we're going to develop better as a group. So
yeah.
Really good to hear that.
Yeah.
Just one question. Sorry, thing.
Yeah.
Evan. With Nacsport Hub as well, do other coaches collaborate on it as well, creating presentations like to help you? Because obviously that's one of the main benefits.
Yeah. So again, for the lads that are involved with me, this is their first time, and we would have sat down with the playing group and put it up on the big screen, and I'd have given a quick demo for how to use it on your phone and make clips and just small things. But what you find is they are engaged in it, and the management as well are engaged in it. We're chatting ourselves and we're commenting under things. We're creating clips amongst ourselves. So what I find is I would say we're putting in the time, right, without actually knowing we're putting in the time, because you're doing it every so often whereas if you sit down at night time and have a Zoom call with your management team, it feels like a bit of a chore because you're like, geez, have I any night off? Whereas look at, you're on Instagram and you're on stuff anyway, Twitter. So just opening up your app is just another thing. Oh, I see a message in from this lad here. I'll have a look at it. Oh yeah, I agree. I disagree. Can we do this or that? And yeah, it's a really good way of getting to know it. And I found it quite easy because obviously I use Nacsport as well to upload the stuff. So it's quite easy to get it off it. So I would be a fan. I would say I'm converted. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll see how these 21s go. If we will see how they progress with it. But again, it's introducing them to this because look, I was doing a workshop last week, and I think like, what is our goal as an underage coach? And we don't care whether we win, lose, or draw. Our job is to get these boys to be senior players, and being part of being a senior player is skills, the gym, the strength and conditioning, but the game understanding is something there a lot of them probably need to work on. And if this is a way of improving it, by all means, because you're not going to get time to sit down with them one-to-one in club situations. It's not county. So I find for club players, this is really good.
Excellent. Thank you, Evan.
So I'm nearly there. I'm just going to flick through the benefits of coaches understanding performance analysis. Hopefully I've given you a bit of an understanding, but the different analysis types, and not to confuse them. So I'm going to go through, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them here. Quick breakdown. This one is statistical analysis or notational. It's just really analysis that data that drives your insights into your KPIs. That's all that is there. Then you have your performance analysis. We've spent most of the webinar talking about that. So hopefully you have a good insight into that. The other thing that we look at is, it's something I do a lot. I bought a VO camera for this, is training analysis. So look at my session plans, evaluate them. Did they come to life? What worked well? What didn't? What games worked well? What didn't? How can we fix them? How can we make them better? So watching our plans versus our analysis. Looking at our opposition, very interesting one here. I know it might be small. So we analysed Cork before we played them, and we did an analysis on this player, their centre forward, who did a lot of damage. But what we found was we wanted our 6. Our 6 was a holding centre back, and their 11 was someone who went short and picked up a load of ball. Big problem. So if we didn't use the opposition analysis and the tagging to do the opposition, so our game plan then had to change. We had to start an extra defender, put them marking. So instead of changing our whole game plan, by understanding what one of our key opposition players done based on her touch map, we had to then say, right, well, our 6 can't go out with her, but we want someone to tag her because if she gets in possession, she's really good. So that meant that our midfielder then had to drop onto her, and we had to pick a player to sacrifice that we could leave free. So again, opposition analysis, understanding the kickouts, who are their shooters, very important. And then the match analysis, this was an interesting thing that I would have taken from Kerry when they played Clare. They got 5 goals, but of the 5 goals, they only averaged 3 plays on the ball, which is a hop or a solo. Most of them, they have very little hand passes and their foot passes. So they use the foot to transition the ball and to devastate an effect with very minimal touches of possession in their 5 goals. So that was looking at specific match trends. So analysing their goals. And then player analysis, so just focusing on the individual. So we've been through that as well. So there are the different types of analysis that can be done. Look, not everyone is lucky enough. I work at home here. I work for myself. I have a bit of time. Not that I should be doing a lot of it. I should be doing more work. But I really enjoy it, and I've probably gone down the rabbit hole a bit too far with it, but it is not everyone will have the time to do it. But that's where I suppose my learning from the masters is trying to take and understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not just chasing my tail. I have a bit of a plan. Doesn't mean it's a good plan, no, but it's a plan. So if it fails, at least I know I can go back to it and rejig it. Whereas it's just having some bit of formula. So again, I just want to stress that's my stuff. It might not be very good. It's often when I put up some stuff on Twitter, people are come at me and say, no, this is wrong and that's wrong and the other thing's wrong. And they're probably right. There's a lot more smarter people out there than me. But all I'm doing is sharing my stuff, and it might help somebody. That's all I hope it might achieve. I don't know at all. I'm only a couple of years into coaching. There's far more better coaches on this than me. But and particularly with people who are on this, we have a great coaching community. Some of my best friends, we WhatsApp. Some lads I've never met in my life, and I WhatsApp them every day about football. And they might be in different counties, but I love it. And I'm always open to having chats with lads. So feel free to get in touch, pop a message, follow me on Twitter, send me a DM, and any questions I am open to.
Perfect. Here. Thank you, Evan. I think just rounding up there as well. So you talked about like going into the rabbit hole and going through and putting your time in. But I think it's really clear. Like you have obviously you're planning out obviously before the year. You're planning. You're then reviewing and integrating the stuff, and that to me is the killer part. You integrate. You're using your analysis to adapt your training, to give player individual feedback about how they impact the game, and then you review, did that work or not, and then we plan again. So it's that constant, like that cycle approach you're doing. I think that the story and the examples you've shared us there show that real importance of constantly adapting, using the tools like video analysis that can back up and tell us, did this work or not? Are we sticking to the game plan or not? What can we do in training to help us stick to the game plan to get towards our outcome? So, I'm sure everyone here will say thanks for being so open with your insights, with your game model, and sharing that all, because there's valuable lessons for us all from there. So, thank you massively for that.
No problem. Hope it came across clear enough. But it's
definitely.
Again, if there's any questions on it,
we've got a few here, Evan. If we'll run through them. So let's Colin again was saying to use the analysis of training to understand if the unopposed patterns of play are being executed correctly with repetition.
No, I don't analyze the unopposed. I would analyze if we're working on specific things like looking for our midfielder to drop off to tag, so our 6 can drop back, video that, find where the problems are, try and actually exploit it, get the other team to exploit it by sending late runners in and things like that, throwing problems at them and showing them the video clips after training. But in terms of like them unopposed patterns of play, and I suppose it's a terminology I would have got off Mick Bohan. It's with these versions, what I would do is when they get really good at it, we move it on. But like what we take for granted is the finer points of them unopposed patterns. It's the timing of the run, the body shape to take it, their positioning of their feet. It's all the little, I suppose, detail, as they call it in rugby, around that. And there's a lot to be learned from rugby around the timing of running, attack plays, stuff like that. So in them unopposed patterns, we know that in the modern day game of Gaelic football, there will be blanket defences. We know the pictures that are coming. So if we train from and have variations on them, all it does is give players being comfortable in them positions. And like I'm a humongous advocate for a games-based approach. I spent most of 2 years trying to learn and understand it on my masters, but I still see a place for isolated practice, unopposed patterns of play, drills as such to improve their handling. So there's no one size fits all. If you've an under 12 team and they're not able to execute the basic skills, then them high octane passing, moving, kind of all moving parts things won't work. You have to simplify it. So again, I go back to coaching relative to your team, and that's the key thing, is that like I get often asked to go into certain places to do sessions before the week before a county final or things like that, and I'm like, no way, wouldn't touch it, because I have no clue what your team is. I have no clue what you've been coaching all year. If you've coached good enough to get to a county final, you don't need me there.
Perfect. Thanks, Evan. Thinking around that patterns of play as well. So John Bilton, hello John, thanks for joining us. So John's soccer, football, he does a lot of evidence-based coaching and research in there as well. So, and I think you kind of touched on this when you were thinking about like getting players to be senior players is not necessarily the outcome, but you know, your patterns of play there, are they all about creating the goals and the scoring opportunities, which, you know.
Yeah, and then that pattern of play is actually, and you've seen the video clip we got, so like we got a goal and we missed the goal through a bad execution of a hand pass. So that pattern of play is all about actually creating goal chances by really the key player in that is there's a backdoor cutter that's triggered 4 phases out, but by everyone else engaging the defender, there should be that backdoor cutter. So you often see it in probably soccer as well, down the channels where they're trying to create triangles and create an overload to get that kind of shooter in behind from the wide areas. And that's where it's similar for the unopposed patterns of play. And they do it in soccer. They stick mannequins in. They work on them passing patterns. And look, they don't always come off, but a variation of them probably will. But it's just understanding and getting the players understanding the timings and what we're actually looking for. Then bring them into the same area of the pitch, but now put a blanket defence in front of them, and let's see, can they bring that into the game?
Perfect. Thank you, and thanks, John. So we've also got Kennedy, who said, "What do you define as an attack, Evan?"
So I don't know where I'm at yet in this. I haven't come to a conclusion. So I'm in between. A good friend of mine is saying he's moved on away from the word transition, and he is, when you have the ball you're attacking, and when you don't have the ball you're defending. So the word transition is gone because for him, but like the word transition in Gaelic football is massive. Like everything is a transition, but like what is a transition? And really and truly, and the guys in soccer will know this, is like the transition is actually the 5 or 6 seconds from when you go from defending to attacking or attacking to defending. It's that 5 or 6 seconds of a change in mindset to get set to go and attack. So you're not, like people say, oh, we're transitioning because we're between the two 45s. You're not. Once you've turned the ball over on the 45 and you are set and everyone knows now we're in attack mode, now you're attacking. It doesn't matter where you are. So I think we get bogged down on what a transition is, and we do transitional patterns of play and all this kind of stuff. But I think it's been taken out of context. I think the soccer actually define it quite well. Is a transition is actually that time from when the ball is turned over, that couple of seconds for a change in mindset to occur and us to get our attack in shape and start attacking. But once you have the ball, you are attacking. Like.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think a key part there, obviously, your team know how you define what an attack is. So when you're talking about attack, you're all on the same page, which is the key thing. Derek had said, do you have a live tagging version of the template that will sync later? So obviously anything you do live in Nacsport can link up with the video afterwards, but Evan, you're not tagging those things live because you're pitch side when you're working.
And Josh, to be honest, I'm not too sure there's any value in them live. Maybe the tackle counter is, but in terms of the touches, not really, because you need to see the whole picture before you can formulate it, and there wouldn't be enough data on the fly to be able to, I think, look, and it goes back to the original, the big circle. So you have your performance, you have the observation pieces, what we see live on the day, and then you have your analysis, and then you see our interpretation. So we're taking what we saw on the day, we're merging it with the analysis, and then we're actually seeing what we actually saw. Because I don't know about most people, but when I'm on the sideline, I'm terrible. Like I can't remember what happened 2 seconds ago because I'm so enthralled in the game. So that's a learning piece, is to be able to actually analyze the game from on the sideline and try and see what's going on. But I find post-match, particularly for these KPIs, I think are fine live, but performance analysis, I don't think you can do it live. For me.
We did a webinar with Ulster GAA last week, a Zoom one, and we were talking about live analysis. And actually, for live stuff, you really need to simplify it down to what are the things that would help you to see if you're doing your game model live. Not as much detail as all those touches and where we're happening on the pitch, but what information is going to support the coach and the management team during that live session and not overload. So really just simplified. And if there's a bigger team of analysts that are doing stuff like, Sean O'Donnell with Limerick doing, there's a few of them providing information live and reviewing it because they've got those resources, they've got that experience to do it. But we can bring it back if we are doing some live stuff. It's brilliant. Anything that can help the coaching process, help the feedback, that's good. But we overload, then it's not going to go anywhere. So next question. Lucky you. So Ray Boyne working as analyst this year. Similar templates, but the work is very coach focused. So while he delivers dashboards to players, his majority of work is info coming back to me that players never see. Is this the best use of PA? So I guess the main question there, keeping information for coaches and information to players.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, I think it's all about it goes back to the question at the start of it: why do we do analysis? And you know what? This is an interesting point that was meant to be by a person on our masters that has a link with that Limerick hurling team. And his question to me: I was watching videos in depth of opposition, and I knew I could tell them their boots. I knew everything about the opposition, and I used to share it up on the platforms. And I was looking at their time viewing and all this, and half of them weren't even watching it. And like, he said to me at the time, like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you bothering doing this? Because at the end of the day, you can't play the game. There's no point in you understanding players' movements and all this kind of stuff." So we broke it down and we got the players to analyze the opposition. So we created a list of questions. So how does a team attack? How does a team defend? Who are their key players? Any matchups you think could be good for us, which was interesting. And just 5 things. So they had to watch the game afterwards. And like, it's funny when the players are given, like, a couple of players might say, "I think I'm a good matchup for her. I think I can take her," or "I think I can take him." And it was interesting. It created loads of engagement in a training between the players. "Did you watch their clip? Geez, that was a great score." Or, "Jesus, what's going to stop them?" And all of a sudden, where it was like, "Oh, here's a 10-minute review of the opposition we're going to play, blah, blah, blah." They go out on the pitch, they forget about it. Now there was tangible, actually, analysis coming from the players on the opposition, which was quite interesting. We had our own bits and pieces that we thought were useful, but we did it together. And going back to the question there on what he delivers, the dashboards, I would make them, to be honest, I think I'd make them I would try and focus my stuff towards the players, just because I think that if it's a joined up model where, and this is a whole games based approach, is where there's a collaborative approach between, it's not us versus them and we tell them what to do. There's a joined up way of thinking, and are we happy to do this? Like, we'd have had discussions about, what do we think based on what you've seen? Should we press their kickouts? No, we're small around the middle and they like to go along if they can. Okay, what do? We'll give up the kick out. This cornerback is poor on the ball. Okay, or I've played against them before at colleges level. I think I've the better of that. Can we isolate one-on-one? And it's amazing. What I found is they know more about the opposition than me, because they generally play against them. I've never played against them. And they know their small little isms that they have, and we get valuable information back from them. So, like, I try and use analysis, I suppose, as a collaborative tool, and that it's a process whereby everyone throws their bit into the pile. The PA does, the coaches do, the players do. By all means, the kitmen, I don't care who wants to put their opinion in, throw it all in together, and let's see what we can come up with as a group then with a plan going forward. And I think if there's buy-in that way, our time that we spend, and I'm sure, like me, Ray spends hours doing it, but sometimes I felt for years I was putting in so much work and it was never seeing the light of day. And I'm like, why am I bothering?
Yeah, I think that's a key bit of opening those doors and bringing that collaboration there and getting people to buy in with the ownership. Then you can see that it's valuable time that's there as well. A couple more, Evan. I appreciate we've already taken a lot of your time here. So Carl said, what software do you use? You mentioned Nacsport, Scout, VO, and I assume ClipDraw are those most suitable for you?
Yeah, I use Nacsport for them. Do you know what? I was using ClipDraw and I was spending too much time, I think, of my own time. While it's lovely, I think if the analyst wants to use ClipDraw and create nice visuals, by all means, I'm happy to take them and use them. But I've stopped doing it because it was actually taking so much of my time, and I was trying to see, well, where can I gain? Do I spend an hour making nice visuals, or do I spend an hour on the tagging part of it? So yeah, I would use, the analysts would use ClipDraw and send nice presentations back with cool visuals that help the players and maybe highlight areas of the pitches or highlight free players, things like that. And I use VO and the only reason I use VO, being honest about it, is, look, camera is not massively great. It's the only reason I use it at training. I wouldn't use it for matches because you can't see the players that well. Is that it's handy to have a training, and I don't need to ask someone to come to training every night to video. That's the only reason I use it. It is what it is. It's like buying jerseys off Wish. You pay for what you get. And yeah, I wouldn't. It's grand for what it serves my purpose of coaching my sessions. But if I'm doing any games, I need proper cameras to be doing them.
Yeah, cool. Any video is better than no video, but yeah, I think
that's meant to be your plug, Josh, to talk about the Nacsport cameras.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got we mentioned it a bit at the start. We have IP cameras that we make ourselves at AnalysisPro, really high-end solution with AP capture, like portable sports masts and fixed cameras. They're very, very top-end stuff, but very, very high quality. But yeah, on our website, we've got some pages about filming options that are there if people want to learn more. That's what we're here to do, to give you some options and education as well. Thanks, Evan. Another one here, Michael. How do you deal? Interesting one here. How do you deal with a player that makes excuses to something you show them and they refuse to acknowledge what you're showing them?
Honestly, drop them. But because to me, if they're not interested in learning, and you're putting in the work and you've gone to this effort to show them stuff, and they're still saying no, well, do you know what that does? That sets a ripple effect off throughout the team. And if they're saying it to you, they're going back with that feedback to their teammates. And it's very simple. I think the sum of the parts, and it's something Colin Collins said last night, that you can take a very average group of players and make them into a good team, or you could take a really good player and put him in a good team and he can bring him down if he doesn't actually play to the team's strengths. And I think for me, that particular question, if you've tried, look, obviously you try different ways. And this is another thing, is that everyone learns differently. Some are visual learners, other like lots of data. And if you've explored all the various ways of going about it, and you know that you're confident that, look, this is my game model, I'm not bending this for any player. I've spent a long time investing in it. I know it's worked before. And if this guy is not willing to buy in, then look, they can watch from the sideline. But I think there's only so much you can do to get players to, and that sounds like when he says here, you show them and they refuse to acknowledge what you're showing them. That's a complete lack of respect on top of it. So for me, if you take the player that I was dealing with and we're trying to talk to them about their touches, and they're actively listening and trying to do it, but they're just not getting it, that's no problem. We can work with that all day long and we can find different ways. But if someone has no interest and they're saying, no, I'll do my own thing, that wouldn't be for me.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Evan. Two more. Sorry, this one's been, I've just looked at the time. So maybe we'll go last one here, because I think Michael's other questions about, have you found some players feel you're picking on them when you're trying to show them something simple? I think that kind of ties in to the other one there. They're taking ownership themselves, and you know, there's not the option really, I'd say. So the last one here, thanks everyone for your questions. So Edward said, do you try to use clips at halftime, and if so, how do you make that work?
So I go back to what you referenced there. If you're in a men's, ladies, inter-county setup, you've access to TVs at halftime, you've analysts that are able to provide you with live data. I would look at it if I had them resources. I haven't yet had them resources to do it, so I haven't done it. I've seen teams doing it that have the resources, and I go back to it. Like, what, I suppose, in the heat of battle, look, we'll take it. You take Limerick hurlers, you mentioned Shawnee O'Donnell, 7-8 years on the line, on the go, know exactly what they're trying to achieve, and small little tweaks can fix it for them. You take a group that you're starting out with, by showing them clips at halftime, I think you could actually confuse them rather than help them. So again, goes back, there is no right or wrong. It's about understanding your players, their knowledge of the game plan, the game model, and how they learn.
I think it's all about layering in. You know, start with something that you can do, that the time you've got, you can do something. You can use it to make an improvement. You can enhance your coaching, enhance your training, enhance your feedback. Okay, that's our baseline done. You talked at the start about building your house and planning it out, get your foundations in. Okay, we're happy with that. Let's layer in something else. Incidentally, this is my plug moment. If you're using Nacsport Scout, which is the version that Evan's done all of this work on, and you have the hub platform, actually, if you're doing a live capture and analysis, you can, just with an internet, you can send those clips to the hub app and a picture of the dashboard to review anywhere in the world. So we've got a cool video that shows that in action. But what I think we'll do now, because I appreciate the time that you've given us, Evan, massively. I've just seen the little doggy pop head up in the back corner as well. So dog's having enough.
He's sick of listening to football at this stage.
So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm sure you agree with us that it's been really insightful, loads of great lessons that we can take away from this. And the beauty of it is that as soon as we finish this, you'll be able to watch it back straight away. You can make some of those clips to share as well. And we'll follow up with the tagging window and the dashboard as well, that we've worked on with Evan. So thanks for that. And obviously Evan's Twitter handle, I think Ollie will post a couple of those in as well. So really good information. I definitely think it's worth watching back, because there's a lot to pick out and take from there. So thank you mostly to you, Evan, for giving up your time and sharing so much insights. I think it's been really good.
Cheers, yeah. And any of the lads, my Twitter handle's there. DM me, I'll pop you my number, WhatsApp me, have a chat. More than happy to help anyone.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we shall see you soon. And those of you in the AP Clubhouse tomorrow, look forward to seeing you there. We'll do a bit of a debrief with Evan there as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.